your interest in the things that I've been doing on campus around legal hackers, and you've been to so many events over the years. And I've been very impressed watching the things that you've done in this space with the diversity and inclusion. It's been really remarkable to me. I found from your SAS blog just a little post on this, and I thought it'd be a nice way to begin with just to read from it briefly. It says, one other thing is I would really like to point out too is, this is for me, the first, this is why I'm having problems. The first time I've tried to do this as a more open event, but going forward, we are forming or founding an innovation institute at Campbell with the goal of really trying to bring innovation into the Campbell community. I want to thank Dennis Wicker and his family for giving us a grant to do this. And I think we'll be able to do some really wonderful things. Later this week, I'm meeting with some folks from NC State in their engineering school to try and develop some joint or shared programming with them. There should be opportunities for students to get involved in what I think will be a really interesting collaborative community where I have to thank also Jeff Ward from Duke, who's been taking the lead here and in developing an intramural legal design competition. I'm looking forward to bringing Campbell students together with NC State engineers to compete intramurally in a legal design competition where I think we should do well. I know Tim doesn't probably know this, but we have Tsele Liu, who is a managing director of the NC State Design School, teaching a class on design thinking for lawyers, which has been a fabulous class. So I think we can beat Duke, and that's always been my goal. And I'm also working with, I'm actually co-teaching a class at Northwestern, which is done jointly between their engineering school and their law school. So I think, legal technology and legal engineering is the future. And I'm really excited that we can begin to bring this. So Tim, I want to thank you for being not only willing to talk today, but also our first speaker and bearing the brunt of all my technological deficiencies.
Well, I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
I just wanted to one little passage from this really caught my eye. First of all, Tim is the director of patents at SAS, which is, I didn't realize, the world's largest private technology or software company.
Software company,
yeah. Tim's interest, this is from the blog, Tim's interest in technology was ignited in middle school when he discovered the Apple IIe computer, which I owned. I was very interested in what you could make the computer do, and of course, the simple video games, he says. Around the same time, a TV program called LA Law, which I loved, sparked his interest in becoming a lawyer. And once graduated, Tim began his career in patent law. And I think our interests are very similar in background. And I think one of the things that I've found and have learned over the years is the importance of diversity to the patent bar in many different directions. The obvious ones being, building a just and equitable community, but also in building, in prospering and generating innovation. So I think what you've done is fantastic. So I've spoken way too much, and I will be quiet now.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you very much for inviting me, and welcome everybody. We really appreciate you taking out a little bit of your day to spend with us. And I really do mean that. I want you to think about these issues as we're going along, and if you have questions or want to involve yourself, please, in the conversation, because it'll only be as interesting as Kevin and I can make it otherwise, if you don't contribute. And so please don't hesitate to jump in. This is meant to be a conversation and not a lecture. So we'll try to keep it on that plane. and Kevin, as you pointed out, I mean, you know, first of all, just kind of the hurdles of becoming a patent lawyer. I mean, obviously you can become a patent litigator without having an engineering background, and of course that's kind of the category that I fit in. That's how I started my career, and I always intended to get back to my computer science degree and get that finished, but I never actually executed that because I was working, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 hours a week doing patent law at Jones Day. So that never happened. But one of the problems is we've got this kind of lack of diversity in the STEM degrees at the undergraduate level in the first place. And then it's kind of an unusual situation to have someone who has an engineering degree go to patent law or go to law school in the first place. And so, it's very random to get someone who is really qualified to be a patent lawyer, through law school in the first place. And so I kind of find it happens two ways. One is it's completely random. And then, two is that you have a patent lawyer or a inventor or somebody in your family who knows that patent law is a thing. And so that just is and it's a career, and it's a good career, and you can make a living at it, and it's somewhat fun and interesting, and and so it's difficult to get a community of folks, much less a diverse community. It's very random, and so what we're finding is that particularly in the African American community, it's a even a worse problem, right? That we just are not getting the number of students interested in STEM degrees for kind of whatever for whatever reason, and and so we need to kind of do better in that area before before patent law can be a consideration for folks. And so while we can still work with folks who like me, obviously don't have an undergraduate STEM degree, but it's very unusual to have somebody with that kind of pedigree coming through the system and actually making a career out of patent law. So there are a lot of just kind of hurdles to getting to be a patent lawyer in the first place. So SAS has been very supportive over the years of creating a much more diverse community. In the legal department at SAS, we talk about it, quite a bit, and fortunately, I've been able to, act on it more than, well, a lot, and try to do better, with the resources that we have. And so one of the ways that we started doing, kind of outreach is through just externs coming to SAS as law students and learning a little bit more about how to be a patent lawyer. And Evan, I know you're being shy, but I know you won't be shy forever. But Evan Grant was one of our externs years ago. He turned it into, because he was so dynamic and wonderful, he turned it into a actual paid internship, which doesn't happen that often. And we were excited to have him for a couple of years, joining us as he was in law school. And so one of the ways that we started was just simply reaching out to the law schools and identifying students that have a technical degree undergrad and are looking to become a patent lawyer, or simply interested in patent law as a potential career. And so we had a number of students over the years. I've been at SAS now 23 years coming up on, and we probably started that program, let's say 20 years ago. And we would have anywhere from, 1 to 5 students at a time. And I have some great colleagues at SAS, John Seaman and Dwight Thompson, who really take the laboring, or let's put it that way, on, kind of educating the students through the program. And what I found was, we were getting students from Duke and from UNC and from Campbell law schools, and not so many from North Carolina Central, even though we reached out to them quite a bit. And so I spent a little bit of time working with the folks at NC Central, and starting, kind of just teaching a summer class on the PTAB, which is the Patent Trial and Appeals Board at the Patent Office, which was a really new organization back in, I guess, I don't know, 5 years ago or so. And we started, teaching a class in the summers and getting students interested, and then inviting them to come and participate as interns at SAS. So, or externs, I guess, is the right way to phrase it at SAS. So, we've now had a number of students coming from North Carolina Central. And I think that kind of got my level of interest in working with the HBCU law schools, of which there are 6 across the country. We started thinking about, well, kind of what could we do at the law schools other than teach? And so kind of teaching is the first pillar of the organization that I started, called the Patent Training Foundation. And our mission is to improve diversity in patent law through working with these HBCU schools and undergraduate programs. So about 3 years ago, I started thinking about potentially extending that to scholarships. And we have a program at SAS where we invite patent attorneys from all across the country, from big companies, to come in and spend a couple of days talking about what was at the time a really critical issue for us, which was dealing with non-practicing entities, also known as patent trolls. And so I organized a group of in-house counsel, and over the years that group grew, and we now have about 300 kind of patent lawyers that I regularly communicate about non-practicing entity issues. And so I started asking folks in that community about what they're doing for diversity, and would they be interested in this, participating in the scholarship fund. And we created a scholarship fund, and have now for the past couple of years worked with the Thurgood Marshall College Fund and provided scholarships to students at HBCU law schools, with the idea of helping them graduate law school without debt. So we are actively working with Thurgood Marshall College Fund to actually identify candidates for this year. And so that program is going fairly well. And we have colleagues at law firms that are also kind of the main sponsors of that work as well. So we've got student being trained. We've got students where their law school is kind of being paid for, or at least partially paid for, in the HBCU kind of programs. The next kind of pillar is we are trying to get practical experience for the students. And so the way that we're working on that is to actually have students participate in kind of a clinical experience on actual IPRs that we're going to be filing with the PTAB. So we have some law firms that have kind of agreed to work pro bono on these, and work with the students and teach and train the students as we go along. And the problem, if I could say it this way, as a problem, is really the lack of the just kind of the numbers of students that are qualified to participate. And so that led to thinking about, well, how can we recruit students from undergraduate programs that have STEM degrees, right, into the law schools. And so we started this program probably a year ago now, called Pathways to Patent. And again, drawing on my colleagues from the MPE group, we, from companies like Facebook and Google and, let's see, I guess Amgen on the life sciences, BASF, Microsoft, companies like that, we have created this program where we spend about an hour talking with students through, that have been recruited through the Thurgood Marshall College Fund that are in undergraduate engineering programs, for example, at North Carolina A&T. And we are spending an hour talking about how we got to become patent lawyers at the various companies. And I'm really happy to say that our panelists on these panels have been very diverse groups, and so we're kind of hopefully modeling that this is something that we can that you can aspire to and become a patent lawyer, and it's a welcoming community, and it seems to have had a pretty good effect. And then I guess the fourth pillar of this program is to actually now provide some mentorship. And so we have the lawyers from these organizations that are actually answering questions and working with students on what's a plan to get into law school. And so the AIPLA has actually been very helpful in that aspect. They have a program for helping to improve diversity in patent law as well. And what they are doing is providing kind of LSAT prep work so that those kind of LSAT prep courses are made freely available to the students in the program. And then, scholarships for, actually filling out applications for law school. So hopefully we can get, a more diverse group, kind of coming through that program as well. So with that, I'll probably just kind of stop talking and be happy to answer questions. We're really happy with the way that we've made some progress here. It's always going to be a challenge to, really get the numbers of students that I think, there is demand for. And, as I've seen, there are many law firms that are, really reaching out and, and being supportive of this not just with their time, but with money as well. And it's hopefully gaining some momentum. But I like to say it. It's kind of one guy in a box of rocks so far. We're working on over the next year, I think, in trying to make the organization a little bit more solid than kind of completely dependent upon whether I get up and go to work in the morning. So with that, I'll just kind of be happy to answer any questions and participate in conversation with y'all. So please go ahead and jump in. Well, you're
I
on
have a
mute,
question.
Jim.
I
Oh,
have a
sure.
Go ahead.
Hi, Sherelle.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine.
Good. I have a quick question. So I think that this is a really good program to kind of move people through and diversify, the field of patent law. What do you say? What type of advice would you give someone like myself who is newly barred? I was barred in 2019. I have an undergraduate engineering. Thank you. I have an undergraduate engineering degree. I have a graduate engineering degree, undergraduate science degree.
Okay.
And I'm looking to make that transition. I'm studying for the patent bar right now.
Yeah.
My difficulty since I graduated from law school is trying to find a position, entry level, because when I was in law school, I did the evening program at Central, so I didn't have the opportunity to extern, right? So being able to make that transition from student into law has been a bit of a challenge, right?
Sure.
And so what advice would you give someone like me who has the credentials that, this program is looking for, but is out of law school?
Yeah. What was your undergraduate major?
So I was a chemistry major at Spelman and a chemie major at North Carolina A&T.
Okay. I think, that there are firms that are absolutely looking for, diverse candidates right now. And I can help put you in touch with with those folks for sure. And I think, the other issue is mentorship. I think it's incredibly important to, connect with someone that is doing the type of work that you want to be doing in 5 years.
Yes.
And that will give you, number one, it'll give you a sense for that type of work and what it means to actually go to work every day and write patent applications, which is not for everyone. And the sooner that you figure out whether it's for you or not is the better. But also, there are other paths like, going into the, the more litigation track, which is where I grew up and learned about it. I kind of learned the prosecution on the job at SAS. So the patent litigation is something that you can do without a technical degree, but it certainly helps if you have one, particularly in the chemistry field. So there are a ton of life sciences and a ton of agricultural chemical companies in the Triangle. I assume you're in the Triangle.
Yeah, I actually work at Duke. I've had a 20-year career in pharmaceuticals and in biotech. So yeah, so I'm familiar with that.
Okay, well, I mean, you're in the best area, I think, in the country to identify something that the law firms I know are looking for folks with your credentials, and my guess is it wouldn't be that hard. So that's without without knowing more, but I'm certainly happy to help with your search.
Thank you so much. I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
I think just in general, like in every area of law, making connections and networking is so important. And I wondered if you could give any sort of general advice for networking.
Well, sure. I mean, my experience with that is, never say no to an opportunity. I think whether it's the bar association or whether it's an alumni organization at your law school, or go and volunteer for things. So, for example, at the bar association, get on the IP subcommittee, group, the technology committee groups, make those connections. It's so easy, I think, to, if you volunteer a little bit of time, you will get a multiply return on that investment of time, by the contacts that you'll make. And my experience has always been people have been willing and wanting to help, and that has been my experience universally true. No matter what it is that you're looking for help for, you can find somebody who's willing to help. And at the end of the day, I think that's what we're all kind of programmed to do. And anything that I can do to help anybody is always, it's great. I think it's more important sometimes for the person actually providing advice than the person actually receiving it. So
I know that, from my experience, and I think it reflects so well on what you're doing, that it's often the case for, and in my own life too, as an Asian American, it's hard to find mentors. And if you don't find mentors, it's harder to build the network, right? I also believe firmly that, it's often your network is one of the values you bring to your client. And so that, so that I just think, it's so important what you're doing, and particularly around mentoring and providing guidance and willingness to work, as you just demonstrated.
I mean, mentorship it's an investment, and it's not always an investment that's going to give you an immediate return, but it's definitely, something that I've found over the years, no matter, despite all of my best efforts, Evan still ended up at law school. I mean, I don't know how that happened, but, but we're glad he's where he is, for sure, because I know, an example and a mentor to so many students. And so, the multiplier effect of a human network is, something God only knows.
I'm noticing we have a couple of comments here in our chat here from Latrice Clayton. What would a student need to do if they were interested in patent law and do not have a technical background?
Yeah. So that's interested in patent law is to me, if you don't have a technical, undergraduate background, you would probably be in the category of doing two things. Either doing patent litigation, which there's a, pretty good market for. It's not a huge market if you don't have a technical degree, but it's available. I went down that path for sure. I was lucky. I was in the right place at the right time a couple of times, and that made a good difference. But I really was motivated to pursue that. And you've express an interest, get into a firm that does patent litigation as a part of its business, and express an interest to the partners there, and go and be the person that they can rely on, and you will get experience in that field. And then once you have experience, you've got the experience to to go anywhere. The second track I think that's available is really intellectual property transactions. And so at SAS, we have about 100 lawyers, I think, in our legal department. 80 of them probably, maybe not quite that many, but 80 of them or so do technology transactions. That is, we have a massive customer base, and each of those customers has a intellectual property license to our software. And that involves, intellectual property concepts that you have to know. It doesn't involve necessarily the details of patent law, but you need to know, kind of what indemnification is. You need to, just kind of be, have some experience with technology transactions. And so that might be another way, and again, if you have a IS, it looks like a information sciences degree, that might be a good way to, at least get into working with technology companies. And again, once you start working with a technology company and doing technology transactions, if you want to work your way into doing other work for them, do it. That's the the way you get experience is going and getting the experience. So a lot of times you have to, kind of break down those doors yourself. So.
Anyone else have we're a small group. If you have a question, just go ahead and ask.
Yeah.
But I do have,
Sure.
It's interesting you mentioned technology transfer type or technology related agreements. And, one of the things that's always struck me is that legal education still mainly focuses on the economy as it existed in, say, 1970, right? So it's all about sale of hard goods, and we're securing transactions and things. What kinds of changes do you see that legal education might need in the future? And I mean, and included in that, how we should be addressing diversity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that, my guess is law school, for the most part, gets you some experience that helps you, kind of get into the mode of working as a litigator, right? It really, and I say that from a, what do you do as a litigator? Well, you go out, you get a bunch of detailed information about a particular subject, you learn it in a very short period of time. Yet, you write the briefs, you show up and you argue, and then of course you dispose of everything that you've known and move on to the next, kind of the next battle, right? And that's what you do in law school, in a sense. And so in that way, I think it prepares you, for a lot of different things. But I don't know that the number of years that we spend in law school is really, kind of the best use of that. Let's just say that third year. What I would like to see from a student coming out of law school is some practical experience. And I don't know how many of my colleagues are in the same boat, but I assume a fair number is, we always, when hiring a law firms, it would say, listen, I don't want to be, training a bunch of first years. Well, how do first year associates get trained? And that's a real, it's a real conundrum of how do we bring the next generation up and get them experience if nobody really wants to pay for the experience. And so I've had this idea that, in this kind of training, patent training foundation, that we could have a practical part, right, a clinical part of the training where the students are working on projects that are real, but don't have the level of investment and risk that you might get in working for your traditional client. And so that's the, how can we de-risk those transactions such that we're okay to, kind of allocate some of that project to a law student, to a first-year associate, to a lawyer that's learning. And it really is probably, I know that first-year associates, I've seen bills that are, 350 to 550, an hour. And, I know what I was like as a first-year associate. I know the level of knowledge that I did not have as a first-year associate. And boy, it's a really hard problem. It's a hard problem for the law firms, and it's a hard problem, I think, it should be a hard problem for the law schools. And my my advice would be to have the schools and the firms work together, and create a third-year experience, or even kind of a fourth-year experience. It's much more kind of like a fellowship, rather than where we're working on projects that are real, but again, maybe not with the level of risk involved in those projects. And so sorry about that. That's the beauty of working at home. So anyway, I think it's the third year ought to be much more practical, and we shouldn't necessarily, unless we're going to be going into a practice area that's like, okay, I know I'm going to be practicing in antitrust law, so I need that class, right? Or whatever. It seems like there needs to be a little bit more of a balance on getting practical experience. And I don't know. We need to figure that out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm well aware.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's a big problem, and I don't know what the answer is.
We don't have a whole lot of time left, but since I have you here, talking at the inaugural event for my innovation project here, I was wondering if you could tell us how the practice looks from that perspective. I mean, what do you see as challenges and opportunities that are coming in the future because of the technology?
Yeah. It's difficult to say. I mean, I always, so yeah, I'll give you an example, right? So when, if you go back 5 years, right, and you say, okay, well, what technology will we be doing 5 years from now? And you say, okay, well, I remember, it was going to be self-driving cars, right? We're going to have self-driving cars, self-driving trucks, self-driving buses. And, we were going to have, the 2 million people that make their living driving are going to be disrupted and totally, well, and AI is going to take care of all this stuff for us, right? I mean, that was the promise 5 years ago. And if I look at the situation now, I think we have a much different view of things. I mean, Elon Musk is still telling us that we're going to be self-driving 5 years from now, is what I'm guessing, right? And maybe to a certain extent, we've got even the best cars out there, and what they're doing is computer aided, right? It's computer aided driving. It's we don't want people falling asleep at the wheel yet, right? I mean, at the end of the day, and maybe I've seen a couple of people with Teslas now that are summoning their car, okay, and it self drives through a parking lot. Well, that's a good start, right? But if you thought about where we were 5 years ago and where we are now, technically, I mean, two different expectations for sure. And some things, listen, he's landing rockets. Okay. If you had told me 5 years ago we'd be landing rockets, I wouldn't have believed it, right? So, in some ways we're better off. In some ways, we're just kind of not fulfilling the promise that we had 5 years ago. So it's so. I mean, by definition, it's unpredictable. I mean, what's gonna come next? I mean, who would have? I saw this thing the other day, and I'm sure all of the students who are online know about it. But it's like TikTok, right? It's this 1 minute video thing that is, I guess we'll all be on TikTok soon. I don't know. And is that a real technical innovation that, I don't know. It's YouTube for 1 minute or less, but it seems to be very, very popular. So, and is that where we really want to be investing our money? I don't. In our time, even more valuable than our money. Just seems weird. My brother always used to say, eventually we're just going to be twittering at each other, and that's going to be the sum total of humanity in 120 or 150 characters or less. Who knows what kind of value? I mean, that's how we create value. At some point, I also saw this from Elon Musk the other day. He was talking about, all of these companies that don't really make anything. I mean, at some point, somebody has to make the stuff. And I like to think that that's the side of the ledger that I always want to be on,
I'll just share this with you. I saw recently at a conference a German scholar, and I've forgotten his name. I think he was from the University of Berlin. This is a new computer for me, so I'm sorry if I don't have it. Gotta turn up the mic maybe. But I saw this German scholar, and basically what he was talking about was the use of AI in prior art to extend the knowledge and how it can play into determining what's obvious or not. And he was involved with considering that issue and drafting changes that they might want to have in the EU patent law. But and I know this is something you feel passionately about too, what really terrified him was what it would mean for patent trolls.
Yeah, I mean, I listen, 25 years ago, we were talking about AI and patent search. And, I kind of feel like that's a bit like the self-driving cars. We have this wonderful promise, this wonderful technology out there, but, at some point, somebody has to read the documents and make determinations. And it's got to be, I mean, my gut reaction is somebody's got to, read the documents and make the decision. And to me, that's a human thing, at least as far as we understand humanity right now, and as far as we understand computers. And can there be, computers that kind of highlight documents and say, hey, look here for this concept and look there for that concept? Yeah, more power to you, but somebody's got to put it all together. And the computers are, I mean, I see all kinds of predictions every year that the computers are going to take over. So far, I feel pretty confident that, they're really not. And, and at SAS, I see, the bleeding edge of this technology and still, it's good. It's not great. You know, will it be great in 5 years? It'll be better than it is today, but I don't know. You know, I still think there are going to be jobs for patent lawyers going forward, and you know, maybe they'll be pushing people up the value chain, but um, you know, so far I haven't seen it be. It's certainly there's no magic bullet out there that I can see.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people um, would say that the idea of a what was the name of the robot? Rosie the robot from the Jetsons will never materialize, but it's human plus computer that can greatly enhance, you know, productivity. And
I think that's the key.
That's not, you know, trivial, right?
No, no, it's great, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I see I mean, the thing that kind of scares me a little bit is these, you know, the cyborgish stuff, right? Where you've got, you know, an apparatus that is, you know, around a robot basically wrapped human, right? I mean, that's sort of a little scary, you know, but it's coming, and you know, I mean, but that's, to me, that's, you know, kind of where Tesla is right now, right? It's not fully self-driving, it's not a robot battling another robot, but you know, that's coming. But I think there's, you know, I've thought that we were going to be further along in that field by now, and maybe it's evidence that this problem is somewhat insoluble, you know, with the current technology. I've seen a lot of smart people that think that I'm wrong, but you know, we're still, you know, reading claims and comparing claims and looking at prior art. And you know, I've been doing this for 25 years, and you know, they've been talking about how it's going to be automated since that entire time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I really, I mean, I agree with you fully that it's there's always a role for human beings, because we're not, I hate to say it, but we're not totally rational creatures.
No.
And so, which is a good thing. And so to understand a human, it really will always take a human, right? To understand.
Well, and also, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, if we still have a jury system, I mean, you know, if they're making decisions, then, you know, I mean, that's a human process, and human beings can speak to that. I don't know that robots really can.
Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate having you come and talk. And I imagine if we could sit down, particularly over a beverage, we can talk all afsoon about these issues.
Indeed. Yeah, well, I really look forward to that sometime soon.
Sometime soon, yeah. And I can tell you, just looking ahead, it's the end of the term here for us now. So we won't probably be doing anything for the rest of the year, but I'm looking forward to a big kickoff event in the fall with some really interesting speakers. And part of what I hope to do is circle back around and have some smaller colloquia type events where we can have small conversations with people from, you know, who are interested. I just think, you know, there's so much going on right now, and these systems are being deployed and they are making decisions, and sometimes in places where they shouldn't be. And
yeah,
a lot of, you know, the IEEE came out with a statement a couple of years ago now that said that AI has to have ethics by design.
Yep.
But it talked about that in terms of human rights and some vague notion of the common good.
Yeah.
And I think particularly on that end, we need to be thinking about how, as these systems get deployed, we build a world where the sort of mediating structures that have supported minority communities for generations are protected and even enhanced. And so it's not just about AI bias, it's also about building a world where where everyone can participate. And I know this is what you're doing. So it's been such a great pleasure and an honor to have you here as a speaker. And I hope we can get in touch again soon. Okay.
Absolutely. And, I know also the federal government is investigating, kind of what to do about AI, and SAS, having been kind of a leader for the last 40 years, is, participating in those things. And it'll be interesting to see what, kind of what comes out of that. The financial institutions are all involved, and it could be a mess. The government has a track record, but hopefully let's hope that it's not a mess, and that we get something that is a usable structure going forward.
Well, thank you, Tim. Thanks so much again. Look
Yeah,
forward
my
to talking
pleasure.
to you again soon.
Okay,
Take care.
thanks everybody.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Okay, take care.